Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to UFRL Tier 3 Racing. Tonight we're going over to Hungary for the Hungaroring. I think that's what it's called anyhow. We'll be featuring a short qualifying period, followed by a 35-lap race. I think we're just waiting for the last few people to join the lobby, and then we should be able to get back underway. And whilst we're waiting for that, let me just quickly find the Tier 3 standings, and I'll quickly run through all of that with you beforehand. And of course, what I like to do, especially during Champions League evenings, I will of course keep you all updated on the relevant football scores as well. So we'll start then with the Tier 3 standings. And in first place currently is Dougie. And driving for the McLaren, he was last week's winner in Bahrain. Did an absolutely fabulous job. Followed by Glue for the Williams team. He's on 20 points and picking up second place last week. And then Jardine 97 in the Red Bull team. He finished a fantastic third place with 18 points. DD Friend, another McLaren, so the McLaren's starting out really, really well here in Tier 3 in first and fourth. Currently, they'll be hoping to keep that record going into the second race. Speedy Bullet 4 for the Alpine in fifth place. SR Racing PWW in sixth place. And Sainsy 93 for the Alpine team, taking up seventh place. VFX Instinct in eighth place. Shazam in ninth place, and rounding out the top 10 is Pops Kong. Looks as if we're just about to get underway here in about 15 seconds or so. Of course, if you're watching, by all means, throw in some questions for me, and I will do my very, very best to answer them. And just reading on here, no, I did try and rush Father, but unfortunately he kept getting kicked from the lobby, but I believe he's back in now, and my goodness me, it is absolutely bucketing it down here in Hungary, so be prepared to certainly start on the wets in the first part of qualifying. It doesn't look like it's going to dry up anytime soon either. Everyone's on wets to start with. Never know, I'm sure people will be hoping that it might move to intermediates, but I can certainly see some wet patches out there. Just be careful, Tier 3 drivers, on the opening laps. You don't want to lose it straight away. It is only a short qualifying this evening, which is absolutely fantastic. I much prefer the short quali scenario. And especially with the 15 drivers as well. Obviously, a full quali wouldn't have been overly good. But first few seconds gone in this qualifying session. Nobody out just yet. Everybody trying to work out what sort of setup they should have. And thank you for joining us, Mr. Poem. Feels like forever since I've heard the smooth Graham Torrington 2.0. That is Mr. King Kong. Never ever heard of that guy before, but I'm sure he's absolutely wonderful. Just like me. And we're still yet to see any drivers. Oh, we've got a Ferrari leaving. Is that a Shazam or that is Widget? PRV Widget. And, he is going out on the wet tyres. Not surprisingly, looking at the disgusting conditions in Hungary. I tell you, it's just like what it's like over here in England at the moment. For those of us unfortunate enough to reside in this wet, damp country, it is very similar to the weather you're seeing out on track this evening. All the spray already coming up, and it looks as if Widget almost lost the back end there, but must remember, Widget, don't use your ERS on your out lap. Turn it off. If you're listening, turn it off. Save it for the main lap. Because I do appreciate you're probably going to have to do a couple of laps now to burn off some excess fuel. It usually tends to happen on F123 when it's a wet quali. It is a wet certain tracks as well. Netherlands is one of them. UFRL Formula 1 saying, Baby George is going to sleep well when his dad arrives. When his dad arrives? When he arrives. Fantastic. It looks as if we've got a few more cars out on track now, so Pops Kong is still in the pits. That's my reading there. Godzilla out on track. What a fabulous name. If only you were in Tier 2, we could have Godzilla versus Kong. That would be fantastic. Pretty sure you'd probably beat me as well. Shudson out on track in the Alfa Romeo. The only Alfa Romeo sadly running this evening. Bullmeister Nation unfortunately having to run off to a family issue. So we all wish him all the best here in the UFRL, and I hope things improve quickly for you, buddy. And, yeah, Shuddy, unfortunately losing his front wing on the outlap, so he's coming straight back into the pits. Let's then go to PRV Widget, who is currently in Sector 1 on his flying lap. We've got a couple of drivers on the flying lap. We've got Godzilla as well as Late Bloomer. And you should go on CBeebies bedtime stories, Mr. Kong. You would be fab. Yeah, I probably do have the voice to send children to sleep. They're just running on board with them with Widget. It's looking quite good so far. It is very, very wet out there. I can imagine quite a few drivers are certainly going to invalidate their flying laps by pushing that little bit too hard and riding those curbs a little bit too much. And Viva, shame you missed last night. Yeah, no, unfortunately I just couldn't get home in time last night, but I will be back next week nonetheless. We'll stick them with Widget. He will be the first driver to cross the line. And that beautiful Ferrari. And he's driving into the pits. So we will then go to Godzilla, who's currently in Sector 2. Although we might have somebody else just about to cross the line. I'm not overly sure who it is. So I'll stick with the mighty Godzilla for Team Haas for the time being. As he goes round the final turn through Sector 3 and will cross the line with a 1 minute 39.5. That is now the lap time to beat, and Late Bloomer absolutely obliterates that time with a 1:36, and Sainsy obliterates that one again, a 1:34.282. He has absolutely battered the rest of the field there. Absolutely superb driving from Sainsy 93. And I'll be honest with you, I've raced with Sainsy for the last couple of years now, and this is his favourite track. Now don't be surprised if he gets pole position this evening. SR Racing with a 1:34.5 as well. It's a fabulous lap time from him. At the moment the top two in a complete league of their own. I must admit I'm not overly sure. Oh, DD Friend though now absolutely obliterating both Sainsy and SR Racing PWW. So the McLarens look as if they could get pole position for 2 weeks in a row, but there is no Dougie this evening either, which is a big loss for that team, and certainly a big loss for his championship hopes as well. Every race missed is a huge, huge loss, especially if you're in the fight for a championship. We'll stick then with IXMR Piggy from the Red Bull team. Pretty sure I've raced Mr. Piggy a couple of times before, and he's a very, very good, solid driver. I wouldn't be surprised to see him at least in the top 3 or 4 this evening. And taking that corner reasonably slow, but I think might have to have another go here. It's a 1:35.181. It does put him currently in the top 5. We'll go down to Pops Kong in the Alpha Tauri. And running very, very wide through the chicane there. He won't be best pleased with that. But knowing him as I do, I'm sure he's probably running a dry setup. just reading the comments in the chat. Hopefully I won't miss anything on screen. UFRL Formula 1 saying, didn't miss much, it was Miami. Viva saying, was a good race, should watch it back. Now, which one is it, guys? Was it a good race? Was it just Miami? And then UFRL Formula 1, be nice. Oh, Sainsy going to strike again. No doubt today gives them a chance to catch up from last week. It certainly does. It certainly does. But he's going to have to deal with his rather rapid teammate. Popscon then crosses the line at 139.523. He won't be best pleased with that one. That's for sure. We'll go back up to VFX Instinct. I think he's on a flying lap. He's got a lot of battery life, so I presume he most probably is. And be nice to Sainty King Kong. We know how you like to pick on him sometimes. Yes, I do. Absolutely. The question is this his favourite in the rain? Who knows? I bet he was absolutely devastated to see all that rain bucketing him down this evening. And UFRL Formula 1 saying, go on, Pops. It didn't really help him. He's down in 11th currently with a 139.523. He certainly doesn't like the rain. And Viva saying, me, Lodi, Ghost, Salty Stevens all had great battles at the front. I must admit, I raced Salty Stevens last week and he was absolutely fantastic. So I have no doubt that you had some wonderful battles up there. And VFX Instinct does improve on his lap time, but I don't think he improved his position at all. He's got a lot of work to do to break into that top 8, and that spin certainly will not help those chances for VSF Instinct. And DD Friend goes even quicker then. It's a 133.538 for the McLaren team. We'll go down to Sainsy. He is looking quicker. He is looking quicker at the moment. Oh, I tell you what, he's invalidated. He has invalidated. That is not ideal. And as you can see on the screen there, SR Racing now thinking it's a potentially wise move to move on to the intermediates. I think that's completely mad. Looking at the track, there is still puddles here, there, and everywhere. We've got yellow flags out in sector 2. I think it's one of the Mercedes though moving out of the way. Going down to 50 Gent. He won't be overly pleased with his current position of 7th place. Again, another driver I've raced with for a number of years now, and yeah, he's certainly capable of pushing for the championship, but he will be diving into the pits now. And, PRV widget is currently a little bit faster, but has invalidated. I think there is a number of drivers who will invalidate. Popskong still out on track then. He's on his wet tyres. Currently residing in 13th. Godzilla now thinking it might be a wise move as well to potentially go into the intermediates. Yellow flags out in sector 1. Somebody's come off. Nope, I think the Aston Martin just wisely moving out of the way. And Popskong moved out of the way there as well. And he was actually going faster. So not ideal for him there. And UFRL Formula 1, it's me, Mrs. P. Oh, goodness me, right, yeah, I didn't know that was you either, to be fair. So, yeah, good evening, Mrs. P. Thank you for joining us. We'll stick them with Popskong. He'll be hoping to improve his lap time. He doesn't need much of a miracle to improve it currently. But doesn't. He's actually 3/10 slower. Again, he'll be kicking himself. He's definitely better than that, that's for sure. PRV widget, just 2/10 over his previous best there. Late bloomer, a long way off currently. Let's go to Shazam, who's nearly 4/10 worse off there. I wonder if these wet tyres are maybe overheating. They can't be, surely. Looking at the state of the track, I mean, we'll see what SR Racing can do. He's on intermediates. Be interesting to see what he can do here. I still think it's way too wet for Inters. I'd be shocked if he gets a quicker lap time here. But so far, it'll be interesting to see what his Sector 1 is like. I would be very, very shocked if it was quicker. We'll stick with him just for the interest on the intermediate side of things. It's a hell of a lot slower. It's a big mistake. to go on to the intermediates. I thought it was. It looks far, far too wet out there. And I think he'll be kicking himself there. But luckily for him, he should have enough time to dive back into the pits and put on another set of wets. PRV Widget looking a lot quicker now. Going into Sector 3. Looks like Shuddy may well... Oh, goodness me. I think someone has just gone in to Popskong. I think it may have been PRV Widget. In fact, I'm 100% sure. I think Instinct was possibly involved there. Not ideal at all. I'm not sure if Popskong was trying to move out the way there or if he just slammed his brakes on. But not ideal at all. PRV Widget was certainly looking quicker there as well. He won't be best pleased with that scenario. Let's go up to Glue then, who is just under 2 tenths quicker than his previous best. It won't be enough to move him up just yet. He'll have to have a better Sector 2 and Sector 3 to climb up the leaderboard. And I tell you what, I've completely missed this, but Pro Beast is up into first. How on earth did I miss that one? But ex-Pro Beast. For me, Tier 3 for Pro Beast. I thought Pro Beast would be at least Tier 2. Having raced with Pro Beast in the past. But nevertheless, Pro Beast currently your leader and your provisional pole sitter with a fantastic 133.434. It's going to be very, very difficult to beat. Sainsey's going to have to knock off roughly 6 tenths to be able to beat that. DD Friend a couple of tenths. DD Friend still in the pits, I think wisely so. I think it's maybe a lap too early or a minute too early for Sainsey to have come out onto track. But we'll see. And we're right on board again with Glue in the Williams. It was just about half a second quicker through Sector 1. Whether or not the track is maybe starting to dry out in certain areas. It certainly doesn't look like it's drying out in this portion of Sector 1. And even at the beginning of Sector 2. It still looks absolutely sodden out there. I mean, I'm very, very surprised that SR Racing and Godzilla even attempted to go on to the intermediates. But I suppose if you don't try, you don't know. Yellow flags out in Sector 1 currently. I think the Mercedes just moving out the way for one of the Aston Martins. Either 50 Gent or late bloomer, one or the other. Glue is half a second faster, or just under half a second faster. But I think he may well have just lost all that time there, all that hard work through the first portion of Sector 3. He'll be overly happy with that. I think he's going to dive into the pits now, maybe. No, he's going to stay out and he's going to try again. He's still obviously got plenty of battery life in the wet conditions. The batteries do tend to last a lot longer. And Vivi, yeah, I completely agree with you. It can't be into weather. Complete madness. 50 Jet now riding on board then with the Aston Martin. He goes 7th fastest. And that's an improvement of just under 8 tenths as well. And it didn't really raise him up the leaderboard that much. We'll go then to Sainsey, who's just going through the final part of Sector 3 into the final echelons of his flying lap. Let's see what he can do here. Can he take pole position? Can he go provisional P1? Yes, he can! What a stunning lap time from Sainsey 93. A 1:32.427. That is absolutely fantastic. Now, the pressure is well and truly on for both Pro Beast and DD Friend. I think they're the only two, in my opinion, that can certainly make a challenge. DD Friend has invalidated on this particular lap, but he will have enough time to go again. He'll have one more chance to break into at least the top 2. He's certainly quick enough to nab pole position. Will Sainsey have another go? I think he will, you know. I wonder if he's going to go any quicker here. We'll go to ex-Pro Beast. He's currently 1.5 seconds slower, but he will have time to go again. Didi Friend into around the first turn. Thought he finished sector 1 then, but he hadn't. Looking at the wrong part of the map. Stainsy is now looking slower, unfortunately for him. Sector 3 yellow flags are out. Looks like it might well be Williams, maybe. Let's go back to Pro Beast. It's showing Pro Beast is... he's just started his flying lap. Let's go to Didi Friend, who is half a second down. But at the moment, that will not be enough. He's going to have a very, very solid Sector 2 and Sector 3 if he's going to have a chance of catching Stainsy 93 for that P1 position. And Viva saying, wonder what the Delta is saying. Yeah, that Inter's certainly the wrong call, I think. Speedy Bullet, let's go Stainsy. That's my teammate, Mrs. Poem. Mr. Poem, saying Alpine suck. We will stick with Didi Friend though in the McLaren. Let's see what he can do. That is the end of qualifying. But of course, those who are on the flying lap still have a chance. Mr. Piggy goes P2. It's a fantastic lap. Didi Friend takes P2. It is very, very close. A 132.481. Not good enough to beat Stainsy, but it is still a very good lap. He puts himself into provisional P2. At least we've got Pro Beast, though, to come round, as well as Glue. Can either of them push themselves into the top 2 or 3? And Pro Beast definitely won't be able to. He has invalidated, sadly for him. And the best he can now hope for is 4th place for the Alpha Tauri team. We'll ride on board then with Glue. Let's see what he can do here in the Williams. Oh, and it's a late spin and into the wall for Glue. And that's his qualifying over. Late bloomer ever so slightly faster through Sector 1 and 2. I don't think it's going to be enough, though, to push him up into the top 8. In fact, it's not. He's going to dive straight into the pits. Let's go down to Shazam in the Ferrari. Only two cars left to come round. Shazam diving into the pits. And lastly is Godzilla, but he's having a bit of a torrid time out in the rain. I was really hoping he'd have a good qualifying as well. I love the name Godzilla, it's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, saying beach weather, yeah, I think it pretty much is in all fairness. But well done, Stainsy 93, a fabulous lap time. Closely followed by Didi Friend. And then Mr. Piggy and Pro Beast, very, very closely matched. Not as closely matched as Pro Beast and PRV Widget, both on 133.4s, 5 thousandths of a second, separating the pair of them. So when all the cars have finally pulled into the pits, which I believe they have, of course, we will be having a 5-minute short break, so please don't ready up. It gives me a chance to have a quick drink, clear my throat, and away we can go. But don't forget to alter your setups, etc., etc. But of course, if you are running a wet setup for quali, you will have to use that same setup for the race itself, which most certainly will not be ideal. So let's quickly run through the standing order then. Stainsy 93 starting in first for the Alpine team. A fabulous lap time from him. Didi Friend starting in second place for the McLarens. Mr. Piggy in third for the Red Bull. Pro Beast in fourth for the Alpha Tauri. PRV Widget for the Ferrari taking P5. Glue P6. 50 Gent P7. SR Racing PWW taking P8. Late Bloomer P9. Shazam P10. Instinct P11, Fallout Boy, what a fantastic name that is, in P12, Godzilla taking P13, Popskong P14, and Shudson taking P15. That was a really good qualifying session from all the drivers out there today. And of course, we hope it's going to be an even better race. And Mr. Poe say, when the lights go out, I hope Stainsy actually starts the race this time. Yeah, you know what, I do as well. He was absolutely, he was gutted following last week's shenanigans in Bahrain, where his car just wouldn't move off the line. I would say it's a dodgy clutch control from his end. He'll say differently, that's for sure. Of course, don't forget, guys, a 5-minute break is coming up before we get right back into the thick of it. I'll be back with you shortly. Thank you very much. Hopefully people can hear me. I'm not overly sure. If you can just confirm on the stream if you can hear me, that would be great. I don't know why it would be off. Oh, yeah, we can now. Fantastic. Great to hear. Okay, so then back to the action. Bizarre that you couldn't hear me there, but SR Racing now right alongside Glue, and will take the position. He's got the inside line, surely here. But Glue seemingly getting a much better exit out of the final turn. 5 cars all very, very closely bunched here. Let's hope it won't end in carnage going into turn 1. The Haas of SR Racing down the inside, and Shazam, oh sorry, it's Fallout Boy right next to him, I think. Oh, Fallout Boy diving in there, luckily just about manages to hold his position, and the SR Racing wisely manages to back out there as well. That was a bit dangerous there by Fallout Boy, but nevertheless he does gain the position and moves up to P8. We'll go then down to Pro Beast. Resigning in P11, he'll be really disappointed with the start he's made to this Grand Prix. Sainsy at the moment at the top, 1.5 seconds down on DD Friend, but of course DD Friend is on a set of soft tyres, whereas Sainsy running on the mediums. Mr. Piggy just over a second behind Sainsy, but again he is on the softs. Pro Beast now looking to make a move on Shazam. I think wisely just about backs out there in time. Probably the closest battle out on field between this group of drivers. Glue now starting to get a bit of a lead over Fallout Boy there. 1.5 seconds clear of him now. And SR Racing, he's got the DRS available to him and will surely make the move. Stick going into turn 1. He's got the inside line. And SR Racing up into P8. Fantastic move there by the Haas driver on the Mercedes. And Fallout Boy down to 9th. It really is one of the only overtaking spots on this track, and that is the pit lane straight. There isn't really much opportunity for anything else, unless you can really send it into one of the corners. But of course, it's always best to try and avoid that if possible. The Mercedes ahead of Shazam. Fallout Boy losing control there, and sadly for him, has now dropped 2 positions. Shazam up into 9th. And Pro Beast up in the 10th. Judson, though, is about 6.5 seconds behind him. And Popscon a further 1.5 seconds behind Judson. Sainsy now starting to decrease the lead ahead. It was 1.6, it's now about 1.4. It's down about 2 tenths in the last lap, but I'm sure these softs will probably do about 12 or so laps, I would have thought, on this short track. Fallout Boy really cutting the corner there. He won't have enjoyed that too much. And Pro Beast just under a second behind. He will have DRS available to him, so he should manage to close the gap on Shazam ahead of him. That gap again at the top, about between 1.4 and 1.6, keeps changing consistently. But Sainsy can stay within that sort of range. He's in for a really good race. Oh, the McLaren of DD Friend is out of the Grand Prix. It's a full safety car then. I'm guessing nobody else was involved. He'll be absolutely kicking himself there, and that is a real massive blow for the McLaren team. That's now both of their drivers. They will not be scoring any points this evening. Of course, last week's race winner Dougie unable to race this evening, and now his teammate DD Friend is out of this Grand Prix after leading the race early on. Now this really does suit the soft tyre runners here. That includes Piggy, Widget, Bloomer, Shazam, Beast, Fallout Boy and Pops Kong. They can all realistically now go to 2 stoppers and run on 2 sets of mediums here. I think that's probably the best bet. I would imagine Sainsy wisely staying out. I think it's too early if you're on a set of mediums to pit. He'll be hoping for a later safety car to really consolidate that position. But Mr. Piggy and Widget both wisely pitting here. They are on the softs, of course. I wonder if Late Bloomer will do the same. Yes, he will. Experience showing through here. All the drivers on the softs all seem to be diving into the pits. All wisely, I think, again coming out on those mediums. It's as if Popskong is also going to go into the pits. Rather slowly. Godzilla also going into the pits here as well. Perhaps not as slowly though as Popskong there. VFX Instinct, I'm pretty sure he will remain out here. This safety car really serves him well. He should be able to at least jump up a few positions here, perhaps overtaking both Popskong and Godzilla. Of course, that will then put him back within touching distance of the rest of the drivers as well. And yeah, moves himself up into P12. That certainly does help him. Godzilla, strangely enough, deciding to go onto the hard tyres there. It does surprise me, unless he's really thinking of pushing them all the way to the very end, although I think that's very, very unlikely. And Viva saying, geez, that must have been 10 in a 50. I think it might have even been slightly slower there for Popskong and his pitting strategy there. Clearly just not wanting to break the rules. But strangely enough, he pitted before Godzilla and comes out behind him. I'm guessing he may well have forgotten to have pushed the button there at the correct time. Of course, that does slow you down. It's the red Mercedes, I believe that is, leading the safety car procession this evening. Sometimes it is the green Aston Martin, which I personally prefer. Glue now diving into the pits. He's on 5-lap-old hards. Maybe he's going to chuck on a set of mediums, and then maybe go on a set of softs at the end. I guess he's going for the two-stopper now. Perhaps felt at risk, being one of the only drivers on the hard compound. He will come out on mediums, yeah. I think that's probably a wise decision there from Glue and the Williams racing team. He seemed very, very quick in qualifying. I think he raced in Tier 2 last week and again did a fantastic job, so well done to him. And so far, so good as well for Glue in the Williams this evening. I think the safety car should be back in this lap. I'll run you through the standing order. Sainsy 93 leading the way in first place. He did take pole position, but Didi Friend made a fantastic move on the opening lap and on the opening corner as well. It was a really, really good start from him. Not such a good start from Sainsy. Just about managed to fend P2 as well from Mr. Piggy. But now is back up in P1, and I think unless something major happens, or if something happens with the safety car, I think he'll pull away. As I said to you earlier, this is one of his favourite tracks, and I think he's got every chance of winning the Grand Prix this evening. Safety car back in this lap, thankfully, so we can get the proceedings back underway. We've still got 14 cars left racing, which is always good. You know what, from the looks of things, we've actually got more viewers than cars, so that's absolutely fabulous. Thank you all for joining both myself and the rest of UFRL this evening. It's greatly, greatly appreciated. And Viva just confirming as well, McLaren were P1 in Constructors too. Ooh, they'll be absolutely kicking themselves this evening then, as Sainsy restarts the proceedings here in Hungary and gets off to a fantastic start. I tell you what though, SMR Racing all over the back of 50 Gent here, and will surely now take P2. He's got the inside line here. The Aston Martin fighting bravely, but the Haas of SR Racing moving up into P2, and Sainsy already building a bit of a gap already, just over 1 second just through the first part of the track, and now it's 1.4 seconds. Goodness me. If he can keep calm, cool and collective, there isn't any safety car issues, I think he will go on to win just the second Grand Prix in his Formula 1 esports racing days. The last track he won at was Netherlands, back, I think it was probably a couple of seasons ago, maybe season 4. Yellow flags out in Sector 2, that is the sole Alfa Romeo out of this evening's proceedings, and it is another safety car. Now, question is, do the medium runners now go in, pit for another set of mediums, and then have to pit again for a set of softs? Do they go in and pit for a set of hards? That is the question. And Tijani saying, let's go Alpine. And of course that is the current race leader, Sainsy. And SR Racing now diving into the pits. He's going to take off those 7-lap-old mediums. And Black Panther saying, nah, Ferrari all the way. I wouldn't be surprised to see PRV Widget on the podium. Do I think he's going to win this evening? No, I don't think he's going to win this evening, but I can see a potential podium there, certainly. I think he's certainly quick enough for that. And Viva saying a 4-stop strategy to win it. The way things are going currently with the 2 early safety cars, I wouldn't be surprised. We have sadly lost both DD Friend, who was leading the race at the time, and Shudson, I think, has had some connection difficulties as well this evening. Wasn't able to take control of his car during qualifying, hence why he started at the back. But thankfully he was at least able to do, some form of racing this evening, and but has now sadly retired, which has then caused this safety car. But both Sainsy and 50 Gent both deciding to stay out on those mediums. I don't think it's going to cost them. I think they've probably made the right decision. In all fairness, I think if you can copy what 50 Gent does, you tend to be okay. He's pretty good with strategy most of the time. One of the most consistent racers here in the UFRL. I think he's absolutely fantastic. So, yeah, I think if you can almost see what he does and copy it, I think you're almost guaranteed to have a good, solid race. Yeah, 5-lap fresher tyres for the 2 behind the top 2. Yeah, that is right, but I still think Sainsy's pace here, I think he'll be okay. He was already starting to build that gap at the front already. He'll be really disappointed that the second safety car came out. I don't think he'll be so disappointed that the first one came out, especially as it was sadly DD Friend. I think he'd have been quite chuffed with that, really. As I think, in theory, those two were most likely to win this Grand Prix today. I think they were very, very close overall. But yeah, I can still see Sainsy being able to put out a lead. I'm pretty sure that the safety car will most certainly be in at the end of this lap. The rest of the field has already caught up, and the stewards out on track have had plenty of time to clear any debris left by Shudson's car. We should be able to get the proceedings back underway. And it looks as if we've got another couple of people joining us. We're up to 21 now, from what I can see on the viewing side of things. So that's absolutely fantastic. Again, thank you very much for joining both myself and UFRL this evening. And of course, if you really, really are enjoying this evening's race, then by all means do subscribe to the channel. And if you really, really, really are enjoying this evening's racing here by these wonderful, wonderful drivers, then by all means become a full-on Patreon of the UFRL and help the league out in any way you can. As Sainsy starting to back up the rest of the grid in preparation for the restart here. Sainsy got off to a fantastic restart last time round and was almost a second clear by the first couple of corners. And he's getting things back underway again. It's not as good as last time. In fact, I would say 50 Gent is... he thought about potentially gaining on him there, but hasn't really. In fact, though, he has pulled out quite a decent lead, 50 Gent, over Mr. Piggy. He's going to have to hope that he can increase that to just over a second in just a moment. And yeah, thank you for the follow. Is GHAFM. I won't be able to pronounce that all in one go, but yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you very much for following us. And Late Bloomer has left the session. If anyone is listening and can try and get Late Bloomer back into the action, unfortunately I don't have him as a friend. That would be fantastic. We'll stick on board then with, in fact let's go further down the grid. Let's go to Glue, who's battling hard here with VFX Instinct. He's just over 3 tenths behind. In fact, let's go down to SR Racing here. And he's had to run quite wide there, but does take the position from Fallout Boy. That's a fantastic move. That is a really good move, and good to see Late Bloomer back into the action here. Let's then go a little bit higher up. Let's go, and Sainsy, as I said, has already pulled out nearly 2 seconds worth of lead on the opening lap following the safety car. So fantastic job by him. Glue then, running on board with Glue in the Williams. He's not really close enough behind to really contemplate making a move. Popscon going around Fallout Boy because Fallout Boy is diving into the pits. Late Bloomer losing the position there to Shazam. I think he may still not be back in his car, which is not ideal. Oh, he is back now from the looks of things. He's back now, but unfortunately for him, Shazam is up into P5, and it's looking like a very, very good evening indeed for the Ferrari's PRV widget now. Really, really close behind 50 Gent. And Piggy has already made the move on 50 Gent as well. Which is, you know, that's not good news for Sainsy either. I think you would have hoped that 50 could have kept him behind for a little bit longer. Sainsy running on almost twice the amount of time on those mediums as Mr. Piggy and Widget. Widget is looking fast here in that Ferrari. If he's going to make a move on 50 Gent, it will have to be with the use of DRS at some stage. Fallout Boy right down the back now, which is a real shame, especially with a fantastic name like that. What a band they are. Let's then go up to Shazam, and he's very, very close behind his teammate. In fact, we will go to PRV Widget. The DRS is now enabled, but I don't think it will be on this straight. But I think Shazam will have just about enough here in terms of battery life and speed to get round 50 Gent. What a fantastic overtaking manoeuvre from the Ferrari. That's now him up into P3. 50 Gent will now have to deal with Shazam behind him. Of course, he's on much fresher mediums. And in the meantime, that Red Bull of Mr. Piggy starting to reel Sainsy in. It's exactly what Viva said in the chat. Absolutely fantastic. It's oh, in fact now it's Sainsy must have heard, and he's increased that lead to 1.1. He's got to have to try and keep him out of that DRS zone. In the meantime, SR Racing having a fantastic drive, does go around Late Bloomer, but I think Late Bloomer has certainly got some internet connection difficulties here. SR Racing absolutely flying up the grid here. Just over a second now behind Shazam, and Shazam though will look to surely pass 50 Gent on the next straight, but 50 Gent will most likely have the DRS available to him to potentially overtake PRV Widget. Although I think Widget, looking at it now, 1.3 seconds clear. 50 Gent does not have the DRS available to him. Shazam will surely take the position off of 50 Gent here. And up into P4, surely. No, 50 Gent defending really well down the inside. Just about manages to keep P4, although Widget again with, sorry, not Widget, Shazam again with the DRS available to him. And I tell you what, SR Racing may well take that position off 50 Gent as well. It is wheel-to-wheel action here. Absolutely fantastic from both SR Racing, Shazam and 50 Gent. Very, very good driving indeed. And I think we're about to see a real contest at the front here between these two drivers. If Mr. Piggy's going to make the move, he's going to have to make it fairly soon. Those mediums, as shown by Sainsy and 50 Gent, really not doing the business out on track this evening. They're just 13 laps old, and they do look as if they're losing a lot of grip and time now already. SR Racing really moving his way through the grid very, very quickly indeed. He's just over 2/10 behind Shazam. Although having said that, with the fact that we can see the mediums going off so fast, how long will those softs last? Maybe another couple of laps at most. He's going to have to get round him pretty quickly here. DRS available to him. I tell you what though, let's go to the battle at the front then. Mr. Piggy up into the lead. He has overtaken Sainsy. Sainsy, oh, nearly losing the back end there, Sainsy. I think he just about manages to keep it in play. And apologies there, SR Racing, for missing that overtake on Shazam, but we did have to go to the battle at the front between Mr. Piggy and Sainsy. Mr. Piggy now up into P1, and it's exactly what Viva said with those tyre scenarios. And, just reading through some of the comments here. King Kong, can I have the pleasure of you calling my name next week? I will certainly try and be available. I can't promise anything for next week, but I will try and be available for you, Doug. Let's then go down to Glue then, battling hard. He's just over 3/10 behind 50 Gent. And again, those mediums really seem to be starting to wear off now for the people who haven't pitted just yet. And Glue now, he's got a lot of speed, he got a lot of traction out that last corner. 50 Gent trying as hard as he can to defend, but he just hasn't got the grip. And Glue moving up into P6. But it almost feels as if he's maybe made the move slightly too early. 50 Gent now with his teammate Late Bloomer behind him. Will he let him through? Sainsy wisely, I think, diving into the pits. Will he now go onto a set of hards until the very end of this Grand Prix, or will he go into mediums? Let's have a look. I think that is mediums. Yeah, it's another set of mediums for Sainsy. He's going to go on to mediums, and then I guess he's going to go into a set of softs at the very end. He's going to go for the two-stop strategy here. But he does come out in P11. He's going to have a lot of work to do, but I think it was probably wise just about then to dive into the pits. But at the moment, things are working out perfectly for Mr. Piggy. He is leading this Grand Prix. In fact, I would say he was the surprise leader. Popscone then losing it and losing his wheel. Oh my goodness me. I bet Sainsy now really wishes he'd waited just one more lap. Oh goodness me. That is Popscone out. That is quite a big crash there. And yeah, that is him sadly out this evening, and we do have another safety car scenario here, which that really doesn't help Sainsy at all there. I've been hoping for that to come out much later. The safety cars really have not worked in his favour at all. Mr. Piggy now diving into the pits, as is Widget, as is SR Racing. It's really worked out well for SR Racing, who managed to get in a good 7 laps on those soft tyres. Then work his way up the grid. Glue deciding not to pit, which is really surprising. I think that's a bad move from Glue. I think he really should have pitted there. I think that will really cost him in the long run. 50 Gent then diving into the pits. He waited just about the right time for him, really. And he goes onto the hard compound here. I do partly wonder if Sainsy perhaps should have pitted again and gone on to the hards as well and just ran them to the very end, because he's going to have to pit again. So then, as things stand, Glue is leading the way, as is followed by Late Bloomer, but both of them need to pit again. Mr. Piggy is really the main leader here, and it looks as if SR Racing there diving off the side. What is happening here? Do we have a bit of a safety car glitch going on here? PRV Widget, a yellow flag for a yellow penalty for ignoring yellow flags. Interesting. Of course, Widget, if you're listening, if that really wasn't the case, then please do record the scenario, and the stewards will review. Of course, if you do pit again, and it's then taken off within the pit lane, it's unfortunately makes it very difficult to then remove that after the race. I don't really know what happened there. But luckily nothing. Oh, the AlphaTauri Pro Beast there, I think maybe struggling with a bit of connection difficulty. Yeah, he is. Not quite sure what's happening there. Everyone seems to be having to brake, and the Haas of Godzilla goes into the back of VFX Instinct there. Everyone is seemingly slowing down. This is absolute carnage here. What on earth is happening? Godzilla now diving into the pits. As is Pro Beast. Guessing Pro Beast may well have picked up some damage there. And Glue also in the pits. Coming out on a fresh set of mediums. Be stepping away from the microphone for just a couple of seconds. Won't be a moment. Apologies for stepping away there, just needed to clear my throat. I've been struggling with a bit of a nasty cold recently, but thankfully it seems to be clearing up now. And SR Racing in the stream chat just confirming that there are some issues with the delta time here. As Mrs. P says, please make sure you clip everything. Better yet, stream the race if you can. That would be more than ideal. On either YouTube or Twitch or whatever you're using. And the race is now back underway. Let's go back to the front then with Late Bloomer leading the proceedings. He's got Mr. Piggy behind him, but I don't think he'll be able to keep him behind for too long. Especially on 13 lap old mediums. Sainsy then up into P4 at the moment, but of course he does have to pit once again. He'll be hoping for a later safety car. But he does have the difficulties of getting past PRV Widget, who's looked very, very fast indeed so far this race. And I did say earlier that I didn't think he could win the Grand Prix. I would still be surprised. But I did say that I think he had every opportunity of getting a podium position. And that is certainly proving to be the case here this evening. And in theory, he's actually technically running in P2 currently. Especially if that 5 seconds is later on removed. There were certainly issues with the delta, so the stewards will have to look at that scenario. Let's then go down to the battle, one of the battles at the back then, VFX Instinct. On a fresh set of hards, right behind 50 Gent, who's also in a set of hards. So both of these two drivers will now be going to the very end of the Grand Prix. They'll be hoping and praying there are no more safety cars. And just as I was saying earlier, Mr. Piggy now up into P1, overtaking Late Bloomer. And PRV Widget now looking to cause more pain and misery for the Aston Martin of Late Bloomer. Himself has, he's done very, very well to even be in the position he is in. Sainsy in P4. He's just got to be patient here, though. He's really, in my eyes now, he's almost in a way he's got to wait for Widget to eventually overtake Late Bloomer, and then Sainsy should then hope that he can keep up with the pace of Widget and get him potentially down one of the straights. Getting quite wide there, Sainsy, but nevertheless still keeping right on the toes of Widget, but I do think he has to be patient. Keep those tyres as fresh as possible for as long as he can, although maybe lap 20, 26, 27. He should be looking to dive into the pits and throw on a set of softs to finish the Grand Prix. SR Racing will now surely go to the end on these fresh mediums. And they would be 18 laps old by that time, so that is quite old for a set of mediums around this track, although the fuel load will be less. PRV Widget and Late Bloomer having a bit of a battle here going on into turn one. It looks as if Widget, though, does have the position. No, Late Bloomer defends very, very well. He's got the inside line now. And there is contact between the pair of them. And Late Bloomer and Widget wheel to wheel, and then a bit of a tangle there. And in the process, Sainsy nearly gets caught up there with SR Racing just behind them. The PRV Widget does take P2. Pro Beast picking up a 3-second time penalty. It's quite easy to do around this track. Sainsy looking like he's getting a little bit frustrated here. But of course, he knows all too well how much of a difference fresh tyres makes on this track. But he is right behind, breathing down the neck of Late Bloomer. But of course, breathing down the neck of Sainsy is SR Racing in the Haas. It is very, very close between these two drivers. I'd say SR Racing has looked really, really quick so far this race. Sainsy should have DRS available to him down the next straight, so he should be able to make the move. Although, having said that, Late Bloomer now diving into the pits. But Sainsy will still have DRS available to him, which I'm sure he's very, very pleased about, to keep SR Racing at bay. He's now got to go on a long pursuit of PRV Widget here. Although unless another safety car comes out round sort of lap 26, 27, something along those lines, I think it's going to be very, very difficult for Sainsy to win this Grand Prix now. I think it really is looking like it's going to be a Mr. Piggy win. I think Mr. Piggy started on the hard, or maybe on the soft compounder tyre, so he won't have to pit again, I believe. We'll soon see anyway. We'll soon see. Let's then go to the battle for P6. 50 Gent not too far behind Shazam of the Ferrari. It's looking like a really good race at the moment for the Ferrari team. One driver currently residing in P2 and the other one in P5. Aston Martin do have... is it 2 drivers or just the one here? No, it is 2 drivers. Sorry, Late Bloomer as well. Who was doing very, very well just a couple of laps ago, but did have to pit. I'm surprised he didn't pit under the last safety car. That may well have cost him a little bit there. Sainsy already reducing that gap down to just over 1.5 seconds, but SR Racing behind him, putting in the new fastest lap of the race, and almost thought about making a move on Sainsy there to jump up into P3. Sainsy's got to really hope and pray he can close that gap on PRV Widget to under 1 second within this lap. Otherwise, he will surely lose the position to SR Racing with that DRS available down the pit lane straight. He's got to close that gap. At the moment, doesn't look as if he is doing that. We'll go down the pecking order. Let's go back to 50 Gent, who's battling hard with the other Ferrari of Shazam. Shazam running on mediums, 50 Gent running on the hard compound tyre. I wonder if the hard compound tyre is not a bad tyre to be on at this late stage. I mean, 50 Gent can certainly push them to the very end of the Grand Prix as well. I think he's got every opportunity of really having a bit of a late assault on the rest of the cars ahead of him. Glue, though, right behind 50 Gent as well. He's just over 2 tenths behind him. Sainsy now within touching distance of PRV Widget. He will have DRS available to him going down the pit lane straight, which should mean he should be able to defend against SR Racing and really, really close that gap on Widget. He's really pushing hard here. The whole race scenario really hasn't worked out for Sainsy. He pitted a lap before the safety car come out. He started on the mediums, and it seemed to work out better to start on the softs, given the safety cars. We do have a yellow flags out in Sector 1. I think it's Godzilla off track there, maybe. It might actually be Pro Beast. I think it's Pro Beast off track. This is a very, very close and intriguing battle here now for P2. between Sainsy, Widget and SR Racing. Don't discount SR Racing. He looks really, really rapid today. I think even if Sainsy does get past Widget, I think Sainsy will be hoping and praying that SR Racing is held up by Widget. When I say held up by Widget, Widget is doing a fantastic job today as well in that Ferrari. Trying to see if there's any other closer battles here. Glue battling hard again, still with 50 Gent. 50 Gent now starting to fall a little way behind Shazam, and I think Glue will be able to get the position. Sainsy falling further behind now, and again is at threat now from SR Racing, who is very, very close behind him. I think if Sainsy hadn't had DRS, I think he would have taken that position from Sainsy. He would have taken P3, I'm sure of it. Almost sure of it. He is looking very, very quick indeed, SR Racing. Very, very quick. Very, very surprised Glue didn't get round 50 Gent there on that last one, but I think Shazam may have had a bit of an error there, because 50 Gent is right back on his tail again. He had pulled a little bit of a gap, but is now right back on his tail again. And Sainsy now trying to push as hard as he can. I wonder if those mediums are already starting to wear off here. He's really got to push them for as long as he can before diving into the pits, I think, for a set of softs. He's got to hope and pray that another safety car comes out, I think. I think that is really the only way he gets a win here, or even possibly a podium. It just hasn't worked out for him at all with these strategies. 50 Gent just under half a second behind. Sainsy seemingly losing time on Widget through the back end of sector 2 and 3. But I tell you what, is SR Racing, he has moved up into P3. I thought it was coming, I must admit. And it has now been done. SR Racing up into P3. And I think Sainsy will just be kicking himself into how this race is really going for him. He's been incredibly unlucky, I think, with some of the bits. And 50 Gent, in the meanwhile, moves up into P5. Those hards are now starting to come into play for him. And he'll be able to certainly push them to the very end of this Grand Prix as well. Sainsy, on the other hand, does have to pit once more, which is certainly not ideal for him at all. Obviously, with that 5-second penalty for Widget, it does put him down currently to P4, I think it is. Yeah, P4. But of course, I do think that possibly be removed by the stewards. Afterwards, I think it was a bit of a safety car issue with the game. Let's go down to Glue, battling hard here with the Ferrari ahead of him, of Shazam, who seems to be really, really losing a lot of grip on those mediums. And the Williams is all over the back of him. And don't be surprised to see Glue overtake Shazam going into the next straight. And now Glue, will he do it? I'm pretty sure he will. It's a fantastic move down the inside. He's surely got that position wrapped up and sewn up there. What a move by Glue in the Williams. He's now up into P6. And race control just confirming a 3-second time penalty there for Godzilla. Not ideal for him, but nevertheless, I don't think he'll be too overly bothered by it. Sainsy keeping within a second of SR Racing. As I said, he's just hoping and praying for that late safety car, so that maybe he can dive in, put on a set of softs and make a late assault. But of course, you know, the rest of them would probably... Oh, I tell you what! Now that really does throw the cat amongst the pigeons here. Piggy picking up a 3-second time penalty. Wow! That really does throw the cat amongst the pigeons. Because I think as things stand, he's possibly just about leading. I'll tell you what, I can find out. No, as things stand, SR Racing is winning this Grand Prix. With the way the penalties are being thrown around. Sainsy diving into the pits then. He's going to throw on a set of softs here. And wisely so. You know, he did have to pit, but unfortunately for him, he's going to drop a hell of a lot of places as well. I think that really is his podium over, unless there is another safety car. But again, it just hasn't worked out for him this evening. Nothing seems to have gone right for him at all. But as I said, as things stand with the way the penalties scenarios are going, obviously Widget's penalty I think will have to be reviewed. But as things stand, SR Racing will be picking up his first win here in UFRL. There is I think it's a Ass maybe Godzilla. I think he was off track just then. Yeah, I think he was. He might have been being lapped though, I'm not overly sure. But I think if SR Racing really wants to confirm a race win here, he really does have to make a manoeuvre on PRV Widget and at least start to close the gap as well on Mr. Piggy. But he definitely needs to make a manoeuvre here on PRV Widget, because I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the penalty removed. And Tijani saying, well, throw that race in the bin for Sainsy. Yeah, it just really hasn't. You know, his driving's been absolutely fine. There's been nothing wrong with the driving at all. It's been everything else that's gone along with it. The safety cars coming out the times they did, etc, etc. It just hasn't worked out for him at all. Glue now going around the inside of 50 Gent and moves himself up into P4. He's having a fabulous race. Absolutely fabulous from the Williams driver. Although 50 Gent still battling hard here. The Aston Martin doing the very best he can to retain the position from Glue. But I don't think he's going to be able to do it here. No, Glue picking up 4th place at the moment. 50 Gent in the end having to yield the position. Although don't be surprised to see 50 Gent's hards running a little bit better in the next couple of laps. Sainsy, I'm pretty sure, will be flying now, and Glue picking up a 3-second time penalty as well. That really doesn't do any good for it. Oh, Sainsy going into the back of Shazam. Not ideal at all. I think that's a little bit out of frustration there. Let's hope for him he doesn't have a front wing damage there. We'll go back up to SR Racing, who I said really needs, if anything, to overtake PRV Widget to claim the win. Although somebody did say earlier, the Ferraris are going to do it. And I tell you what, it could really could happen here. PRV Widget has every opportunity, I still think, of winning the Grand Prix. Although it does show him with a 5-second time penalty, I do think there was a bit of a game glitch. So it'd all come down to that. But as things stand, it is SR Racing winning out on track at the moment due to the penalties up ahead of him. I think Sainsy's probably going to be too far behind to really make a late onslaught here. Which is a real shame for him. He's just over 5.5 seconds behind 50 Gent, who then in turn is, I think he's a second behind Glue, and then Glue is just under 10 seconds behind the top 3. Let's go then back to SR Racing, right behind Widget, but just can't seem to get him down this straight. Guessing maybe that front wing is perhaps a little bit too high. Perhaps he doesn't even seem to be making any inroads on Widget, even with the DRS available to him. Widget has no DRS available to him as he's over a second behind Mr. Piggy, and yellow flags out in sector 3. I'm guessing it was a little bit of minor contact. Sainsy, though, in the meantime, picking up the fastest lap so far. He's just over 3.5 seconds now behind 50 Gent. I'm pretty sure he'll be able to catch 50 Gent and then probably catch Glue as well with the 4 laps remaining, especially with Glue's 3-second time penalty. So I'm pretty sure Sainsy will probably still be about top 4, I would think, but certainly nothing more than that now. Unfortunately for him, it just really hasn't gone his way today. Oh, PRV Widget picking up a 3-second time penalty, and again, now that really helps SR Racing, who now just needs to keep within the 3-second time difference between himself and Mr. Piggy, and at the moment it is 2.1 seconds. If Mr. Piggy wants to win this race, he's got to push. If SR Racing wants to win this race, he's got to push as well. It is going right down to the wire, ladies and gentlemen, here in Hungary. It's an absolutely fabulous, fabulous race. And I think Sainsy now battling hard with 50 Gent. I said he'd catch him up quite quickly. He's on the softs, 50's on the hards. And he's going to try and make the manoeuvre down into turn 1. And yeah, 50 Gent didn't really stand a chance there with him being on his hard compound tyre compared to Sainsy's softs. I think Sainsy will now push and overtake Glue, who again's on the medium compound tyre. But he certainly won't have enough laps, unfortunately for him, to catch those 3 at the top who've been absolutely fantastic today. But this man in particular, for me, has been absolutely brilliant. He's just got to hope and pray that he doesn't pick up a 3-second time penalty and that Mr. Piggy doesn't get too far ahead. Want to see the positional changes here. So as things stand then, Piggy up 2, Widget up 3, SR Racing up 5, Glue up 2, Sainsy down 4, 50 Gent up 1, Instinct up 4, Late Bloomer up 1, Shazam up 1, Pro Beast down 6, Fallout Boy up 1 and Godzilla up 1 as well. And now don't be surprised to see SR Racing finally make a manoeuvre here on PRV Widget. Let's just see how he gets on. But again, Widget seemingly having a lot of straight line speed in the Ferrari, but he does finally make the move. Ooh, and there's a lot of defending there. Defending that perhaps didn't really require it, maybe, given the penalties ahead. Sainsy now up into P4 as expected. Overtakes Glue in the Williams. I'll tell you what, SR Racing now at risk of actually losing this Grand Prix to Mr. Piggy. It is now just 2.787, the difference between the pair of them. It is going to be so close towards the end of this fantastic Grand Prix. And I tell you, it's a real shame that Widget picked up those extra 3 seconds. Otherwise, I think he'd have stood a really good chance of winning the Grand Prix as well. But at the moment, it's 2.7 seconds. I'm going to leave it on this scenario here because, for obvious reasons, this really maintains the outcome of the whole race. I think SR Racing's strategy today has been absolutely superb. Whatever you can say. I would say the same for Mr. Piggy and Widget as well. I think the 3 of them have been fantastic. Sainsy cutting the lead to the leaders down to 9.8 seconds. In theory, if Widget's 5-second penalty still stands and he can knock it, I think he probably is within sort of reach now of Widget. So at the moment, Sainsy may well be taking P3 off of Widget. It's all happening here in this Grand Prix. It really is. SR Racing losing the back end. There is the pressure starting to kick in. It is now over 3 seconds. As things stand, Mr. Piggy is now theoretically winning this Grand Prix by 2/10. It is incredibly close here. Incredibly close. Oh, the tyres now really starting to wear thin. SR Racing both on, well, in fact, the top 3 are all on 17 lap old mediums. Sainsy now just 6 seconds behind SR Racing, which puts him about 7 seconds behind Widget, which effectively, the way things stand at the race scenario, he would jump up into P3. We're into the final lap then. At the moment, Mr. Piggy is definitely winning this Grand Prix. SR Racing needs to have the lap of his life here. He needs to use everything he can to try and nick the win off of Mr. Piggy. He's got to really push as hard as he can, but I think the tyres are just starting to go. I appreciate they're both on the same amount of laps, but of course setups, etc., all the amount of downforce, the chassis ride height, etc., all plays a part on those tyres. And of course, Widget, SR Racing does have to battle with Widget ahead of him. At the moment, it's 3.2 seconds. Now, unless Mr. Piggy really mucks up in the final sector, I think he's got the race in the bag here. It is going to be mighty close. It really is going to be mighty close. This is going to go right to the very, very end. And it could all be decided within one turn here. We're right on board then with Mr. Piggy. He will cross the line first, but it all depends on the penalty scenario here. There is still 2 tenths in it. I think it is going to be about 2 tenths towards the end. Mr. Piggy does cross the line, as does Widget, as does SR Racing. SR Racing ends up being 1.72 seconds over. Sainsy taking P3 out on track, but I do think a 5-second penalty that was given to Widget will be reviewed. But what a race, ladies and gentlemen. We've seen it all today. Safety cars, perfect strategies from people, including Mr. Piggy and especially SR Racing. Absolutely fantastic from the pair of them. And Widget did a fantastic job as well. I do think that he will take P3. But of course, that is, as I said, for the stewards to decide following the race this evening. Sainsy, he didn't put a foot wrong. He really didn't put a foot wrong in terms of the of his actual racing today. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. Did set the fastest lap of the race. Quite comfortably as well there with a 1:19.253. But unfortunately, with how the safety cars etc. came out, it just really didn't work for him at all, and I think that's ultimately cost him potentially even a podium today as well. Driver of the day given by the game, SR Racing PWW. I think I would have to agree with that. I thought he was absolutely fantastic today, absolutely brilliant, and fully deserves the second place, if not the first place, in all honesty. But there he is, Mr. Piggy, lifting that trophy. It went right down to the very, very end of the Hungarian Grand Prix. It was so close in the end, with that 3-second time penalty of 1.72 seconds between the pair of them, SR Racing and Mr. Piggy. And then Sainsy at the moment taking third place. We'll quickly round out then the finishing positions of all our drivers this evening. So Mr. Piggy taking first place, a magnificent job by him. SR Racing in P2, Sainsy taking P3, Widget P4, 50 Gent P5, VFX Instinct P6, Late Bloomer P7, Shazam P8, X-Pro Beast P9, Fallout Boy P10, Glue P11, I'm not sure if that's quite right though, and Godzilla taking P12, and then unfortunately we lost Popscong, Shudson and DD Friend this evening to DNFs. And just before you leave, I forgot to do the football scores partway through because it was quite an intriguing race. But nevertheless, I will quickly run through the Champions League scores this evening for you. So Napoli 1, FC Union Berlin 1, Real Sociedad 3, Benfica 1. The rest of the scores are all the latest scores this evening. Arsenal 2, Seville 0. FC Bayern München 0, Galatasaray 0. Bit of a shock result there. FC Copenhagen 2, Manchester United 2. Manchester United were leading by 2-0, but they have now succumbed to the onslaught of FC Copenhagen and now find themselves at 2-2. Red Bull Salzburg 0, Internacional 0. PSV Eindhoven 1, RC Lens 0. And then finishing off the Champions League results this evening is Real Madrid 3, Sporting Braga 0. I'll say finally, what a fantastic race this evening by Tier 3 here in UFRL. You all did an absolutely smashing job this evening. Some real good, hard racing. Some good quality racing, especially from the likes of Mr. Piggy, SR Racing, Widget, Sainsy, absolutely fantastic. And obviously, you know, Didi Friend was absolutely brilliant during qualifying and certainly started the race really well as well. You know, well done to him as well. So I've been King Kong 1471 this evening. Thank you very much for joining myself and the rest of the UFRL team. Thank you and good night.